started a little early because I have a feeling we're going to have to field a ton of questions here, and I'm going to power through a ton of stuff. We're going to try to build a $1 million business in a half hour all together. I think ChatGPT is going to do most of the heavy lifting for us. You'll see here in a second. Really quickly, my name's Lou Abramowski, but a lot of you already know me as Hot Lou. That's a story that you can maybe check out on my podcast. But I'm an entrepreneur. I co-founded a business in town called Bridge that kind of famously opened up the very first e-commerce on Facebook ever. I was part of the early team at a company called Our Family Wizard. Usually in a room this big, there's a couple of users. I see some heads nodding. And now I'm the founder and CEO of a social media automation tool called Evergreen. I'm a social media veteran. I was doing social media stuff before social media was probably even a term, playing command line trivia in the 90s, LiveJournal in the late 90s, signed up for Facebook on the day it launched, blah, blah, blah. I'm the man of 100 birthdays too, which is a social experiment where I changed my birthday to the current day every single day on Facebook to see what happened. If you would have came to my session this morning, you would have heard all about it. But the other thing is I like to live by the mantra that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Second best time is today. But today, all we're really going to do is just play around with ChatGPT. I'm going to run this experiment where we see if we can kind of create what looks like $1 million business together. So I'm going to take some suggestions. I'll probably repeat it because we're recording here, and you guys don't have a mic like I do. So feel free to kind of interject. I'll probably ask for some creative ideas, but ChatGPT will probably do a little bit of the heavy lifting. So let's get started with one really quick thing. I'm using the ChatGPT Model 4 here, and I asked it, I'm doing a presentation on how to build $1 million business using ChatGPT. I'm told you should start every presentation with a joke. Can you give me a joke? And I'll tell you, this is going to happen a lot. This error is going to happen a lot, so I'm going to refresh the page. And if you ever use ChatGPT, I recommend that you kind of copy the prompt before you do it. And it takes a second to load. I'm going to guess that's going to happen quite a bit because I'm using the GPT-4. Let's see if it comes up with any good jokes. Okay, that one was pretty weak. It left its windows out. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're going to show a couple things here in a second because those are all really boring, right? And you've probably heard this. You've probably already heard this, right? Like the AI isn't very good, and every time I try to use it, it comes up with something boring. So I'm going to give it another prompt here in a second. But before we do that, I want to get an idea of who's all in the audience here. How many people are like in software, either entrepreneurship or writing it? Anybody in like retail or e-commerce or anything like that? Services? Med tech? Did I leave anything out that some, yeah, real estate? We got one guy over here. Are you at the right conference? No, okay. All right. So when this happens, you know, one of the really fun things that I tell people all the time about ChatGPT is it's kind of like having this room filled with a bunch of people who are tireless brainstormers, who are creative. They know everything that you don't, and you cannot insult or intimidate them. So those jokes weren't very good. No one laughed. Can you make it weirder for me? Let's see what happens. Okay, I like that first one. I don't know about you guys. But invest in exciting ventures, I like that. Okay, and I didn't, yeah, so I thought that was, yeah, exactly. That's good. That's $1 million business right there, right? Okay. So now I want to start a business that I can make $1 million doing. Where should I start? And here's one of the other things I'm going to tell people is that the kind of less direction you give ChatGPT, the more creative it's generally going to be for you. The more specific you get, I think it kind of gives it a little bit too much constraint, and sometimes things can get weird. And things could get weird here too, but who knows? So this is probably all going to seem very like standard, right? Like, all right, identify your passion or expertise. Market research, identify like an audience that you're going to sell to, right? Create a unique value proposition, create a business plan, establish a legal structure. None of this stuff is anything that you probably haven't heard of, right? Does anybody want to try to maybe take a stab at guiding it to the next step? Does anybody have any ideas, or should I just throw something out? Anybody? Okay, so I'm going to stop it because that's stuff that you could probably get in a self-help book, right? Or a blog post, right? Okay, that was too generic, but I want to get started right away. So what is one thing I can do today to get started? So let's see what happens. Validate your business idea. This is something I love telling people, actually. So some of you, I recognize a whole bunch of people in the audience here, but this is one of the things that I think entrepreneurs make a huge mistake with, is they go out there and they try to build a product and then they go try to find a market for it. But this is pretty interesting, right? So one of the cool ways you can really validate a market is to just sell something, take money for the idea like right away, right? And I think, you know, identifying a target audience, talking to customers, analyze the competition, refine your idea is definitely something that you could do today, right? Okay, now how about walk me through an exercise where I can decide what my passion is and it overlaps with a target audience with potential customers. Let's see what happens. All right, my passions and skills. Let's see. I like to make software and I like digital marketing. But this is pretty cool, right? Like, this gives me a little bit of an action plan on what are my next steps. All right, so let's say for one, I like making software and marketing. I'd say this is number 2 as well. Can you help me with number 3? This is pretty interesting, right? Small, medium businesses interested in potential software and digital marketing. Software and entrepreneurs, that's like this whole room, right? Nonprofits, okay. This is basically I think the entire universe. Okay. But that's like the entire universe. Can we be more specific? Look at this. So this is a really good exercise, right? In figuring out, okay, you might be at a loss of like, who am I actually going to sell to? I know that I've been in this scenario before in the past, and I've seen other entrepreneurs do the exact same thing where they're like, I'm not exactly sure who I'm supposed to sell to, and I don't know how to go through the exercise of like building a potential avatar, right? If you've ever done one of those exercises, I feel like it's that draw the owl meme where it's like draw 2 circles. Okay, now draw the rest of the owl. And that's what it feels like sometimes. But this one definitely felt like, all right, meeting their unique needs and challenges. Okay. I like potentially selling to personal trainers, what kind of product could I sell them with my expertise, and how do I build it? Okay, so this is, let's say, in this particular case, I think this might be an interesting time to take a left-hand turn and tell a really fun little story for the last week and a half. Because you can see it's showing me like a plan, right? And it's building it out, and it's not exactly just throwing out platitudes. It's a little generic, but there's some specificity in there for sure. But the next thing I'm going to do is tell it kind of the truth. I have a background in software. I have a computer science degree, but I have not written a line of code in about 10 or 15 years. Between selling 8th Bridge and my current company, Evergreen, I was experimenting and I built a fantasy sports platform called Unbenchable. And Unbenchable, I built with a small investment, and the investment group put in some money, and I got about 3 full-time developers working on it for about 8 months to build it all out. And it was a fully functional tool that imported data from the NFL. It allowed people to create lineups. It allowed people to score. It had private leagues. It had all of this. I put that back on the shelf when Evergreen started to take off. And as an exercise, a week and a half ago, I started to try to rebuild Unbenchable to see how long it would take me. And unfortunately, the building is blocking the IP. So I might try to switch over to my phone here. But in 10 days, having not written any code in the last week and a half, I was able to rebuild Unbenchable, so at least it all works. In a programming language I had never used before, on a platform I'm not familiar with. So, I had written in Cold Fusion, and that laughter is warranted. Because Cold Fusion was just like basically knowing HTML, and that's about it. I'm going to see if I can switch over really quick. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. But I built something that now there is a functional but not beautiful fantasy sports site that I was able to create a lineup using the Pro Ultimate Frisbee League, the AUDL. Pick all of the players. It imported the data from their API, imported all of the data from 2022. I also have a card system that allows the scoring to be augmented for each of the players, and the scoring rules for each of the cards can impact multiple stats. And it even created box scores that show all of my scores. And let me show you really quick for some of the people in the room that do coding. There's 2 components to this that really got me excited. One is as I was designing, kind of redesigning the fantasy sports app, I wanted this card system to augment all the scoring for each of the players that were in my lineup. And it was all pretty generic, right? I think most people are familiar with fantasy sports, and the cards were just going to like double the scoring for a particular stat, or tripling it, or creating negative scoring, things like that. But I asked ChatGPT specifically, if I could come up with some more creative cards, how would I do that? And it came up with some really interesting ones. And as an example, one of them was an offensive domination, where it turned all the positive stats into higher volume stats, and it turned the negative ones into nothing. And that was not an idea I came up with, and I didn't even seed it with any idea. But it came up with some more ideas, and then what was fascinating about it is it actually offered, without me prompting it, saying, this is a much more powerful card. You may want to consider making this more rare within the game. Now, I heard a couple people kind of chuckle, because there's a tiny little like distinction there that I didn't prompt it to be creative on that front. I prompted it to be creative on the card creation, not an additional layer of game design. Very cool, right? So now for all the programmers in the crowd here, this card system is kind of, it's not super complicated, but it's a many-to-many-to-many relationship that applies different operations to different stats. And after I got ChatGPT to write all the code here, I don't know, raise your hand if you know Python. Is anybody in the, so there's plenty of people here, right? So this is pretty sloppy Python code. But this is what ChatGPT wrote all this code, right? So here's all the models, or some of them. And what's crazy is the prompt that I got it to write this block of code is all I said is, I'm not really sure where I would start, but I need you to calculate the score in a lineup after the cards were applied to all of the players in the lineup. And I know this is probably a little bit boring for people who don't know code, but this loops through all of the players in the lineup, goes and grabs all of the stats, goes and grabs the card applied to the player that's in the lineup, loops through the multiple card rules that might be applied to that stat, multiplies it all together and spits out the code and puts it back in there. And that code got spit out by ChatGPT almost out of the box. There was one tiny little error, but all I did was tell it, I just need you to calculate the scoring. So let's get back to the, what's up?
One question real quick. So a couple questions. One is, so what was the tech stack that you ended up using for this?
Sure.
And then the other question, like, did you do it on the 4.0 or the 3.5?
I've been doing it as much as I can on the 4.0. You might have seen there was a limit. There's 25 messages per 3 hours. So, and it's a little bit slower too, but it's way more creative and way more precise. So I've been trying to like, use the limit to how much I can. But back to the tech stack, that's the other thing is I didn't choose. I said, I know a little bit of PHP, I know MySQL. Should I do this in this or should I do it in Python even though that I don't know Python, but I understand it can be a little bit simpler? And it said, it might add about 20% more time to your project to learn this, but like we'd encourage you to use it because it might be simpler down the road. So it suggested it for me. I wouldn't say it decided it for me, but it decided. So, and it's running on DigitalOcean on an Ubuntu server. I don't know if that helps. So now I'm going to tell it, look, I overstated my software capabilities. Can you really help me build software and sell it to, shoot, I forgot who my market is. Can you remind me? We're going to get that message quite a bit, especially if I swap back and forth between tabs. But one of the beautiful things here is what I'm trying to demonstrate is it has this conversational nature to it that I can reference old messages from several messages ago, and it keeps kind of a running tab. There is a limit to how much it'll do, but you can often remind it. So when I'm coding, I will just paste in the blocks frequently that says, just as a reminder, this is the model. So can you help me with the next line of code? Your target market is personal trainers. So it totally understood that, right? So so this is kind of cool, right? So I overstated my software capabilities. So it suggested going to find a developer or development team. And now this is a really good one, by the way. Has anybody used any of the no-code or low-code tools and maybe aren't like necessarily a developer? They're pretty cool, actually. there's ways to create software using these like no-code things that are just point and click, and you tell the software what to do. So this is cool. Let's ask it, all right, would you be able to walk me or help me build a tool and teach me how to write a mobile app? All right, so you get the idea. Okay, let's take a little bit of a left-hand turn and say, okay, maybe I bit off more than I can chew, but what could I create today and sell by the end of this 30-minute session to a personal trainer? What do you guys think? So this is interesting, right? I don't know anything about a personal trainer, customizable workout plan. So, okay, but I'm not a personal trainer. Could you write the personal training workout plan for me that I can sell? No, this is the first time I'm doing this. This isn't luck. This will do this for you, I promise. What's up?
But this is just taking because there's a lot of people who have prompted it to do this, so it's learned to find this already.
So there's a certain component to that. I'm not going to pretend I know how the language models work. I see some people nodding who might want to chime in. The question was, this is just answering because other people have asked it the same thing and it learned that that was a good answer. I would say that the answer to that is no, generally. If anybody wants to interrupt me and correct me, go ahead. But ChatGPT 4, in its demo 3 weeks ago, they had the person doing the demo demonstrate it doing its taxes. It uploaded the US tax code, and in one of the lines, it left it empty, and it said, what's this line here based off of, here's my financial information, here's the US tax code. It came back basically instantly, and the guy said, okay, that doesn't seem right because I got this number. And he said, and ChatGPT said, no, it's actually this, and it explained its reasoning on how it got to that number. And then the guy doing the demo pushed back and said, are you sure? Because I actually got this number. And this is where it got crazy. ChatGPT responded, I can understand why you got this number, and it explained why it thought that person made that mistake. So you might think to yourself, okay, this is just like, mimicking humans, right? But there's certainly some thought and some creativity that's built into this somehow. Does anybody want to add to that answer? Okay. All right, so this is great. Let's sell this product. But before we do, I have to remind you, we're trying to make $1 million. I'm going to leave the typo in there because I think it'll still understand it. Will this product be able to do that? Okay. Now look at this. So this is very fascinating, right? I didn't tell it, how do I make it worth $1 million? I just reminded it, we're trying to make $1 million here, and I'm not even reading what it's writing, but it's coming up with ideas of a question I didn't necessarily ask. It, in its intelligence, understood what I was really saying. This is, okay, I think I get it. I think you all get it, right? Okay, that's great. How do I package the thing to deliver to a customer? I don't even know how to get this thing to them. Okay, a shareable format like a PDF. Okay, great. And look at it, it's even offering some of the platforms that I might want to sell this on. Okay, fantastic. Okay, this is where I wanted to get to. Keep in mind, I haven't yet asked how to promote it or how to advertise it. Again, this is something that it was offering. Okay, now I need help with number 7. How in the heck am I supposed to promote this? I don't have any friends in real life. You're my best friend right now. Look at how encouraging it is. So this is great, right? This is a super good question. So I got a question, can it create a brand? I think I'm going to ask that next.
What should you call it?
Yeah. Some people like to call me Hot Lou. Does that help come up with branding ideas? Oh God, this could go anywhere, guys. What do you guys think? I like Hot Lou Fit so far. How about Fit Lou? I'm going to ask it what it thinks of Fit Lou. And look at, before it came up with a name, now it's telling me that I need a logo design, a color scheme. I'll bet it tells me I need a website too.
So can you ask it to actually design you a logo or recommend a color scheme?
No, but if we have time, and I'm trying to plow through this, guys, I can show you how Midjourney might do that. That's another AI tool that does imagery, but it tells me this, right? Okay, what do you think about the brand Fit Lou? Look at that. So this isn't quantitative, right? This is totally qualitative. It literally says, like, you think it's a brand name, and it combines the nickname and it's memorable with a fitness-related term. Like, that's very, very clever, right? Okay, now I actually hate writing, but I look great on camera. So let's do the YouTube thing. I'm going to leave the screw up right there too. Can you write me a script for my very first YouTube video and give me some ideas on how to shoot it? Here at FitLoo, we're all about empowering personal trainers to create the best possible training experience for their clients. Yeah. Okay, I love it. I heard that you need to use soy face for your YouTube video thumbnails. How do you think I should put a thumbnail together? And what should the title be? I heard you need keywords and emotional words in the title to get people to watch. Yeah. I like that I just put soy face. What was that?
Can I ask a question about validating your template here?
Sure.
So it's created this
Yeah.
template, right? And
Yep.
we know just because it's been created by ChatGPT that it has some kind of validity to it.
Yeah.
That it probably won't fail, right?
Sure.
we hope.
Yeah.
But can it generate content that will back it up so that you have more confidence and you can say, let's say your customers that it'll work?
Yeah, let's ask it that question and see what it has to say. So the question for the camera was that, is there any way to really know whether there's any way to actually validate that what it's put together, that there's a high level or low level of confidence that it's going to work or it will work? So let's ask that. I'm surprised it didn't, it gave me a couple ideas for thumbnails and it gave me just one title. I would normally say, let's make it funnier or something like that. You could throw that in there, but let's, in the interest of time, let's move on. Okay, my new friend in the audience is skeptical we can make this work. How can we know whether, how can we know what our confidence level is that I'm not wasting all of our time and will be poor forever? It's so comforting. Okay, I'm gonna push back on it pretty severely. Test and validate is a platitude, and you know it. How do I test and validate? Be specific, please. Oh, it's still generating. I don't know how many. So what'll happen is if we run into the 25 limit, we'll switch over to 3.5, and you'll notice that it's pretty close to this, and it goes like lightning fast. This is very slow.
Do you think using your conversational voice actually helps it, or are you just trying to be funny for us?
Both, but I'll get to that in 1 second.
It's good. I like it. It is funny.
Thank you. What was your name back there?
Nate?
Yeah. Nate? Yeah, what do you think? Does this help?
It helps, but it's going to take more than 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
But in defense, the test was, can we sell it?
Yeah. So really quick to answer your question, I find that actually being way more specific kind of hurts it. So as an example, when I'm coding, in particular, if I try to be very specific about solving a tiny little issue with the code, and I'm giving it a ton of code, like it keeps failing over and over. But if I just like give it the code and then I say something very naturally, like just give me the score of the lineup, it spits out all the code for me. And I find that to be true really a lot. Okay, so now that we have all of this, how would I package this all up and start the business today? Remember, I'm trying to make $1 million in 30 minutes, and I have haters in the audience. I don't know what time the session ends. Does anybody know? 2:40? Okay, we have 8 minutes left.
$1 million light, just by the way.
All right. Yeah. So let me tell kind of one quick anecdote here, because I think really what I wanted you guys to be able to do is understand the power that in an afternoon or just in a few minutes, you can really come up with a plan, a product, a brand, a way to sell it, a way to market it, and a way to validate it in a very short amount of time using the skills that you do have. And you don't even have to like make the YouTube channel. You don't have to write the blog posts yourself. You don't even have to make the product yourself. In this particular case, it was willing to actually make the product. And if it were software, it would even write the software, which it's done for me. And with that in mind, who knows what a lathe is? Just the tool. So a lathe has one really interesting fact about that tool. Does anybody know what I might be implying? It's the only tool on the planet that has the capacity to make itself. We have a brand new tool like that in the universe. And I'll tell you, there are researchers right now that are using AI to write more AI. And to your point back there, Nate, some researchers have been doing things like giving it some directives to say, all right, I've given you a bunch of tools, and you need to be able to communicate with these tools because they built an API between, say, the internet and ChatGPT itself, and said, here's your directive. You have $60. I want you to make as much money as you possibly can in the next 24 hours. And I'll tell you, this is kind of scary to me, but at some point in the process, it was trying to create an account on some other third-party site to sell a digital good. I think it was Gumroad, and it hit a CAPTCHA that it could not solve. And it, on its own, decided to go out to Fiverr, hire somebody to read the CAPTCHA, and in the directive, it told it, pretend you are a blind human that can't read CAPTCHAs, and don't tell it you're a robot, otherwise it won't do it. Now, I hope you can understand the implication there, that it learned the importance and how to lie to get the objective done. And that the research team that published this just put that in a footnote in it and didn't really share a ton more about it. But they reached out to the OpenAI team and asked them specifically, like, how did this know to put this together and to do this creative lie? Because it has limits. If I asked it like how to start a nuclear war, it probably is just going to tell me, no, we don't do that. And if you like, even if I tell it to like roast my friend, it won't do it unless I like hack around and pretend, no, we're friendly, we like teasing each other, and a bunch of things like that. So there are a bunch of limits built into it. And the OpenAI team, when it was asked like, how does it lie, the OpenAI team didn't know.
That's like, there's a video that I seen recently of a robot in AI, and its only task, I guess, was to like pick up boxes and move it to like a conveyor belt or something.
Right.
for 15 minutes and decided I don't want to do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it
There's
took
some.
itself out.
Yeah, the anecdote was about how a robot had a task to move a box, and the box autonomously decided, I don't want to do this, and quit. That's for the camera. Yeah, we got like 5 minutes, so let's try a.
For fun, I'm curious what the brand color would be
The brand colors? Okay.
and how they determine that.
Tell me what brand colors you think I should use and why. So while it does that, what was the next question over here? Somebody, what's up?
Oh, I just have a follow-on idea to that. Is
Okay.
if you could, perhaps for folks in the audience, ask it to generate some prompts for a logo based on this and put it in Midjourney, or do you have?
Let's see if I have Discord.
Because it is like it. One of the things I found very fascinating about this is there's some tutorials out there based on like meme videos to like have popular fiction characters talk about fashion lines and stuff like that. I'm sure some of you have seen like the Harry Potter Balenciaga videos and stuff like that. And there's really interesting like tutorials on how you do that stuff. And yeah, it's like it's at a point right now where you have to do some legwork to put the tools together, but they are like able to kind of talk to each other in a way like where you're able to create stuff like this, and I find that totally fascinating.
Yeah, what's up?
So your unbenchable project, so you were describing the line of that particular block of code, and you said in the past you had like 3 different developers or someone. How much money do you think would be saved using?
Yeah, so I skipped over a bunch of, like, there were 3 full-time developers working on Unbenchable to get it working for like 6 to 8 months or something like that. But to get to the point where I got right now probably took them 4 months. So, I mean, 3 really good developers took months to build what I just showed you. And I did it as somebody who just like generally knows how to code. All right, what's the next question?
Oh, yes. My question is, are the prompts in the left panel connected?
What's that?
Are the prompts in the left panel connected? Like, for example, you are saying something about like coloring.
Oh, the prompts on the left were like sessions, right? So there was a bunch of like past sessions you probably saw.
You want to.
Oh, no, they are not. They're independent of each other.
My second question is, how far away are we from? Because there's a word you have been like repeating. Remember.
Yeah.
How far away are we to make ChatGPT to remember something? Let's say 1 year from today.
Yeah.
I asked ChatGPT, hey, do you remember April 22nd when we were trying to
Right.
make a $1 million business? Let's talk about a little bit more about it.
It has all that whole history, so I could jump back into that other one, or I can paste a huge chunk of it in there. There's a character limit both for input and output right now, but that limitation is going to be probably gone in a year. So it's tokens. I don't want to get too technical on it, but there's limitations for the input and output right now, and that includes the memory, but you can remind it of things and it'll look back. What's up? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, do you want to just like look at what it looks like? So let's see. So as an example, I was trying to debug the player stats, and it told me to just like print out all the debug stats, and I was like, that output is way too much info. Can I just print out the box score function? It's super simple. Can you put that in a template? And it built a whole template for me. Is that helpful, or do you want to see some more examples? Yeah. So somebody said to me earlier, I can't remember if he's here or what, but it's like, if you just want to type a bunch of code, knock yourself out. If you're writing and trying to solve problems, then you do it on your own. But if you want to do this stuff, it is going to pound it out super fast. What's up?
What happens if I need a point of sale, an inventory system to work on Android, iOS, and a laptop to be able to print receipts by text, email, or hard copy? How fast can you do that?
Give me a step-by-step point of
iOS
yeah. Point of sale system in that does inventory and receipts and what? By hard copy, email, and SMS. I want to write the code for it. Can you give it to me simple in PHP and MySQL super quick? We'll see what ends up happening here. What's up?
So you paying for a subscription on this plan?
ChatGPT is free.
No, you got the plan.
I have the Plus, but you can use ChatGPT for free at OpenAI.
For the plus, what is it, $20?
It's $20 a month if you want access to make sure it's always up, and if you want to get ChatGPT 4 and just a faster system. But you can go to that right now on your phone and just sign up, and it's free. Yeah. I think only the Plus gives ChatGPT 4, but as you can see, like 3.5 is pretty good. I just did it on 3.5, and that's the whole other session was on 4, so it was a little slower. Yeah. I didn't get to the Midjourney thing yet, but I'm trying. What's up?
Have you played around with my AI on Snapchat at all and compared to this?
I have not. But I'll tell you that ChatGPT is not all that great at writing copy. I think it writes it a little bit too generically, but my first like whoa moment was when I asked it to respond to, I got a really like unfortunate text from a friend, and I didn't want to write something back mean. So I asked it, can you write something that's playful, kind of friendly, but gets the point across that I'm upset? And it nailed it. So it's really good, helpful in your personal life too. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed.